Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Se Vuelve Podcast. My name is Monica, and I want to thank you for being here. So this episode is actually a part 2. So if you haven't listened to the previous episode, last week's episode, I highly recommend going back to listen to that one and then come back to this one, because this one, it is the conclusion for last week's episode. Last week, we left off having a conversation with Carmen and Jessi. We're going to go ahead and jump into the conclusion. There was one night, I was a teenager, I don't remember what year it was, the bathroom that we had upstairs, they were going to be remodeling it, and my house before there used to be like an entryway to go to the basement, but in order to make one of the bedrooms bigger, my parents decided to kind of like close that entry to go downstairs. So the only way to get to the basement is essentially now to go through the outside. So when our upstairs bathroom was being remodeled, we also had an additional bathroom downstairs that we didn't really use, but they ended up like cleaning it out and stuff like that, and it was usable, but we weren't using it at the time. I think my older brother, who was staying downstairs, would use that bathroom since we had the one upstairs. It made sense, right? So that this time frame, our upstairs bathroom is under construction, so we have to go go downstairs for the bathroom, and you have to go through the outside, through the back area. And I'll say this, like, I was a little TMI, but I was on my period. I got up in the middle of the night. I had to go to the bathroom. And I remember thinking, like, I don't want to do this. This is the damn freaking middle of the night that I really need to go. So I remember, like, going through the back and thinking, like, oh my God, I've always been, like, aware of, like, spirits and ghosts and all that stuff, right? The spooky stuff or whatever. And I remember thinking, like, I hope that nothing, like, happens. Like, you're outside, it's dark, it's the middle of the night. I was like, I hope that nothing, like, either real, how do I say this? Like, real world, like, things, right? Or paranormal, like, doesn't happen to me. I remember thinking that. I'm fine. I go downstairs to the bathroom. Perfect. Come back upstairs. And I remember, like, I'm like, okay, I'm laying in bed. All right, I got into bed. I'm like, I'm cool. It's fine, whatever. And I had, like, this, like, stuffed animal. And since I was on my cycle, I was crampy. So I remember putting the stuffed animal, like, on my stomach. And mind you, I feel like I was still, like, fully awake. Like, I went out. You know what I mean? It wasn't like it was like I was in a daze of, like, half awake, half asleep kind of type of thing. Like, I went outside for, like, I went outside. It was a whole ordeal or whatever. I remember, like, laying down, put the stuffed animal down, and I literally, like, shut my eyes, and I felt weird. Mm-hmm. And the moment I felt weird, I opened my eyes, like, right away, and I could not move. And I know people are like, this is sleep paralysis. This is sleep paralysis. And I'm like, there's no way it could be sleep paralysis when I went outside and, like, I did my business, went downstairs, doing my business, went upstairs. It was like, my body was still awake. It's not like I fell asleep and I was, like I said, I literally just shut my eyes. I just, like in seconds, it was seconds. I, like, closed my eyes. I felt off. I opened them immediately and I could not move. And I remember, like, at this point I shared a room with my sister, and I was trying to, like, move, but I couldn't move, and I was trying to call her, and all I could literally do was, like, like, do that, right, because I can't even talk or anything or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And I saw this, like, long, like, smoky cloud, and no, there was no red eyes. No, it was not right on top of me. I saw it, like, if I'm laying down, it's across me in the corner, stretched out like that, smoky. Mm-hmm. And I just remember thinking, like, really weirdly, I was, like, thinking about, like, prayers, but I couldn't, like, remember them, and I was so freaked out, and I just remember, like, calling and just being, like, like, asking these people to protect me, or, like, my spirit team, or angels, whatever you believe in. And I was just, like, so freaked out, and I'm trying to talk, and I'm closing my eyes, and I'm looking, and I just remember that it, like, went from my room into my mom's room. And then all of a sudden, like, I was pulled out of it, right?
Did you feel any like negativity, sadness, like it overcame your normal persona, anything like that?
No, I
No.
just was. I think it's because I was so freaked out that
Mm-hmm.
I was like, once again, I'm like, uh, I was always aware of like you said, ghosts and stuff like that, and I kind of was like, when I saw it, I was like, this is like something. I'm like, this,
Mm-hmm.
I can't be making this up. I didn't feel anything. I just because I was so scared,
Mm-hmm.
I literally was just like trying to call my sister because my sister is maybe like five, no, a little bit more than 5 feet away from me. And I mean, our room was not that big. So I'm just like trying to get her attention to like wake her up. And I just remember, like I said, I'm closing my eyes and I'm like kind of like praying or like asking for help and stuff like that. And but I didn't feel, or like I said, it wasn't like it was on top of me. It was like, we're talking like I'm on my bed, right? This thing was on the ceiling across the end, and I just, like I said, I just saw it looked like a really long, like cloudy,
Shapeless.
smoky shape. And then I went into
Mm-hmm.
my mom's room, and I remember, I don't even know why I did this, but I think when I was out of this, like not being able to move, I got up and I went to go look at my mom's room to see if like they were experiencing anything. And not like nothing was going on with them, so I just kind of like went back to bed. And I remember like telling like my family and stuff about it, and they're like, you're crazy. And I couldn't sleep in my room for like a couple days. And I remember like, like I slept in my mom's room and I was like kind of like praying and stuff. And that was pretty much like the only time that I ever experienced it. But kind of like to go with that, it's a couple years later, or like few years later, my mom had like kind of like the same experience. And my dad was next to her. She was saying like she couldn't move and stuff like that, and da 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 da. And then the only way she said that she was able to kind of like break out of it was that somehow she was able to like kick, and she like kicked my dad, and then my dad kind of like shuffled or moved or whatever, and like kind of like moved her, and then essentially like she was able to like break out of it. But like for the most part, like in my like I said, I've never had any like experiences like that. There is one other experience that I'll like talk about, but I'll let like, I'll let Jessi talk. I'll let Jessi talk if in case, so that like we kind of like break it up.
Yeah, I don't know. Should I like go from the beginning too, or
Whatever you like want to talk about, like whatever you like experience, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, if there's any stories, family stories that I've missed that weren't first hand accounts for you.
I mean, I feel like Carmen like covered like most of it generally. Like I feel like just like growing up, there were just so many things. Like she said, like noises that were just like part of like everyday life, and then like seeing the apparitions or like the little girls, that was just like a normal, I don't know, it just seemed like it was
Yeah,
like
once
a
every few
normal
years, you knew
part.
somebody was going to see something.
Yeah. Like, so like my first experience with like actually seeing like one of the little girls was when I was like maybe, I don't know, I want to say it was like maybe 5. So I don't know what year that would have been, maybe 4.
Yeah.
And I remember Melissa, our younger sister, was like still in like diapers or pull-ups or something. Um, and so like I was sleeping next to her, and it was like one of those situations where like I think like I don't know if we were sharing a bed or like we had just crashed or something. It was like a summer night. And I remember sleeping with her and being like, oh my God, like she's wearing her pull up or she's wearing her diaper or whatever it was. And I didn't like want her to like pee like near me or like to leak. And that's why like I remember like we were kind of like sleeping in the same bed, but I was like trying to sleep on opposite sides and I like couldn't get comfortable. And I like woke up, like I don't know, something just like woke me up, and I look over and there's just this like little girl staring at me. She had like blonde curly hair like my little sister. So, and I was like so out of it, I started talking to it, and it was also like really pale and like almost translucent. But like my little sister's really pale and like blonde, and I was like out of it. So I was just like,
It's got to be her.
Yeah. So it was like, it has to be her. Like, you know, I'm like, what are you doing awake? And she just stared at me. And like, she was like standing like a few feet away from the bed, like just staring at me. And then that's when, like, when there was no response, that's when I started waking up more and being like, why isn't she responding to me? You know? And then I look over, and there's my little sister sleeping right there. And I look at the little girl, and I look at my little sister, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, that's not her. And like, to give context, there's nobody else in the family who has like blonde curly hair, and there's nobody like that young. And so then like, I remember like, I just like laid down and closed my eyes and like just hope she went away. Yeah. And I remember like trying to like sleep with Melissa or my little sister, and like I was like putting my like face under her diaper at this point, or her pull up, because I was so scared. And so like I went from like I didn't want to sleep like next to her to like I was like trying to hide under her. Yeah. So that was like one of my like that was the first time I had seen something like. But everybody like always saw these like little girls, so like there's just they just like became like part of our, I don't know, childhood. Like I remember having a conversation with my older sisters, and they were telling us like when they first moved into the house in the 80s, when it was just the two older sisters, there was just 2 bedrooms, and my parents were in 1 bedroom, and there were the 2 front bedrooms. My parents were in one and they were in the other, and they had like a lot of toys in this bedroom. And my sister told me like she used to just like these little girls would just come and play toys with her, and she just thought like they were like, I don't know, just like part of the house. Like she didn't think anything of it. Like it was just kind of like crazy. So it was just kind of like that. Like they were just always around, and somebody would see them. Like I didn't want to see them, because like when she just like stared at me, like I don't know, she didn't seem like friendly. Like,
yeah, same with me. Just very unsettling for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't like, it didn't give me like a feeling like, oh, this is like a child who like just wants to play with me, or like I don't know, I just got like a
Do you think it was like something pretending to be a child? Is that where?
That's like what I've wondered over the years, because I'm like, I never got like a good feeling from her. Like, I don't know. I almost got a feeling of like, maybe she didn't want me to be there. Like she was just staring me down. Like it was weird. But I don't know. My older sister said like they used to play toys with them. So, oh no. Can you guys still see me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, this like it just went away because somebody called me. Speaking of which, that sister just called me. That's crazy.
Angie?
Yeah, she just called me, like made, because it's my phone's connected to my computer, so like made this go away. But like, yeah, she said like they would just like, I don't know if she said it was like rolling toys, like cars or something that they would like roll around.
Yeah.
Like she would like roll things under the bed and they would roll it back to her. Like it's kind of creepy, but she said like she just thought it was part of the house. So I mean, like I don't think I really saw them again after that, except like in a dream, which I'll get to, but because that came like many years later. But for me, it was more so like just other people seeing stuff, and you would just always hear the noises. Like for example, we would always hear like doors closing, and we would always hear like, I don't know if you heard this, Carmen, but like somebody was always on the back porch and like opening and closing the door, and we had like this screen porch screen door that made like a very distinct sound, so
like a creak.
Yeah, so you would always hear the screened door like opening and closing, and you would always think somebody's home, and then you would go and look and there'd be nobody there. And it wasn't like a door that was like unlatched that was just like, you know, going back and forth
with the like the wind. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, even several times I would hear that in addition to the inner door distinctly like being unlocked by a pair of keys. And my mom has very large keys, and she'd come in the house, you know, she'd lock the door and then she'd unlock the door when she'd come back from the store. And I mean, it was to the point where we thought, oh, mom's home. Like, crap, we didn't finish cleaning. Like, and it would happen like all summer, every summer.
Like, whenever she was home, it was a very distinct noise with her keys. And like, I remember always hearing like somebody's opening the door. Oh no, she's home. And you would hear like both doors, and then you would look and nobody would be there. So that was like really weird, but you just kind of got used to it. We're like, somebody could be here, somebody cannot be here. It's probably just the ghost. And I remember like at one point, your sister had come over. It was like after school, and
my sister?
Yeah, like usually I had gone to her house. Actually, okay, let me rewind about why I went to you guys' house for so many years. So I think it was my freshman year of high school. I was downstairs in the basement because we had a computer down there. And I was just like on Facebook or something, like MySpace, one of those websites. And that's what I'd always do. I'd come home from school, I'd maybe have a snack, I'd use bathroom, and I'd go downstairs. And my dad and my mom would usually come home around the same time because she'd like to go like grocery shopping or something and like time it. So she either came home like right before him or right after, but it was usually an hour after I got home from school that they like came home during that time when I was a freshman. So I always had like an hour alone in the house where I could just like be on Facebook or whatever. And so I'm sitting downstairs and I'm doing my like Facebook or MySpace thing, and I hear somebody come home. And sometimes, you know, my dad would get off like early, or my mom would come home, you know, so I just figured, okay, it's one of them. But like Carmen was saying, like if it was my mom, you'd always hear like the keys jingling, and I didn't hear that. My dad was like quieter when he came home, so I thought it was him. And like I said, sometimes he would just come home early. And so this was like, maybe I had been home like 10 minutes, like, and I heard like him, well, it sounded like him, like walk up the stairs on the back porch, open the door, and then go into his bedroom. And I heard him like go in the drawers in his bedroom and like pull things out. And I mean, sometimes my dad would come home and like change his clothes, like if especially like if it was like a rough day at work or something. Usually
and to say your dad worked in like repairing trains, right? Or he worked with trains, so it's like he's doing like a machinery, so sometimes like you're greasy or whatever.
So like I thought maybe he's changing his clothes. Usually he just stayed outside when he came home. You know, he might come home and like have a beer or like use the bathroom, but for the most part, like he would be doing like yard work or doing something outside in the garage when he'd come home. But this time he just came inside, and it sounded like he went in his drawers, and I just thought like, oh, he's probably changing his clothes. So then I go upstairs like to go talk to him, and I like walk upstairs, and I was just like, oh, are you home from work early? And there was nobody in the house. And I was like, oh, like he must have really like put on his clothes quick, because it wasn't like I waited a while. Like I like waited a minute, and then I went upstairs, maybe less, like maybe 30 seconds. And I go upstairs and like he's not there. And so I'm like, oh, he must have like went outside really quick and changed his clothes. So I look outside, and his car's not there. The driveway is empty. Nobody's home. And so then at that point, I had like called your sister because I thought somebody broke into the house. So I was like, I need to get out of the house. But also like our dog was just like in the backyard. Like not
barking or anything. It's like, right. So it's like if somebody broke in, or somebody was walking, she would have like acknowledged it. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I mean, like we said, she's not like a barky dog, but I can't imagine like
if somebody opens the fence that isn't normally supposed to be there, she would have let out some noise. Yeah.
Right. Or she would have at least been around. Like, I think she was just sitting in her kennel, just chilling. And like, there's no way. Like, and she was like pretty young at this point and pretty alert. So like, if somebody had come home and then left, she would be on the porch or she would be walking around. Like, she wouldn't just be chilling in her kennel. So I'm like, oh my God. At this point, though, I definitely heard somebody upstairs. So I'm like, somebody was in my house and they're probably still in the house and maybe she didn't notice. So I'm like, I have to get out of the house. So I run out the house and grab my phone and I call your sister, because we had just, like I said, it had been 10 minutes since we had like gotten off the bus. And usually your sister would go and sit in the living room and she would be like watching TV or sitting on her phone. And you guys, like, at this point, I don't know if it was like early in the school year or late in the school year, but I remember it was like summer. It was like the weather was nice and you guys had the window open and your sister would like see everything out that window. And I was like, oh my God, did you see somebody like drive up to my house or like somebody go like break into my house? Because like we had a gate that was like locked shut. And I'm like, did you see somebody like jump over the gate? She's like, no, I haven't seen like anything. And like our neighborhood was pretty quiet, that like if you had seen something, you would have seen it.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, well, I think maybe they came through the neighbors, like maybe through the back neighbor, like jumped over the fence. Like, I need to hide in your house because I think there's somebody in my house. So, and I call my mom and I call my dad and I'm like, did you guys like go in the house and like then leave suddenly? And they're like, no, we're not, like, we haven't been there. And so I sat at your sister's house and we just looked out the window to see if anybody came out. And then obviously nobody had ever come out.
Right.
I think like your sister thought it was crazy, but then like several months, well, then after that, after I got home from school, I would just, for several months, I would just go straight to her house and I would just hang out at you guys' house because like
you didn't want to be alone.
Yeah, I didn't want to be alone. And I feel like, Carmen, I feel like you were like going to soccer, and Monica, like you must have been in some after school something, because it was just me and your sister. And so then like after that, like several maybe years or something later, I remember your sister had come over to our house and we were just sitting down. It was me, my younger sister Melissa, and then your sister, and we were just hanging out in the kitchen after school one day, and you heard somebody opening the door in the back, and we knew it wasn't our mom because we knew she wasn't coming home yet. And your sister was like, is somebody here? And we're like, no, that's just the ghost. And so that's how used to it we got, is that if other people would hear it, we would just be like, yeah, but we would dissociate from it because we were just so used to it. So that was like the main thing, is like the noises and like, I don't, things, we'd always have, like Carmen was saying, like things would move a lot, or like you would lose something and you couldn't find it, like your keys or something you needed, like your hairbrush, your phone, like, and you would look all over the house and you knew you just had it. So you're like, it must be on any accessible surface somewhere. And everybody would search and you wouldn't find it. And then later it would show up in that same spot. And you knew, like, you looked in that spot and it would just show up. So
that happened a lot to many members of the household. I was going to say, Jessi, even like a few times, this wasn't as common as it ending up in the exact same spot, but a few other times we would find things in like the refrigerator. Oh my God. Very strange. Yeah, that wasn't the predominant way we would find things, but yeah. So that's scary. And that's kind of like classic, like demonic kind of entity stuff.
Like the remote or something in the fridge once.
Yeah, in the refrigerator. No children in the house, nothing goofy, no shenanigans. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's like, to say it like this, it's like it has to be like something that's like higher level, you know what I mean, in order for it to be moving, physically moving things around, it's not like your basic haunting, to say it like that.
Right.
And it wasn't
like I put the spoon in the wrong drawer, like, no, not like that.
And it wasn't like, oh, like maybe there's something on the other side, like a little girl or something who wants to like play with your toy or play with your brush, right? Because then maybe you'd see it move or something. It was like specifically you were looking for something important and it was almost like somebody was trying to mess with you.
Yeah, create
and
chaos.
put it in the fridge or put it back in the same spot to like gaslight you.
Mm-hmm.
And it would cause like a lot of drama in the house because it would be like, oh, well, who took my stuff? And obviously with like a bunch of girls,
Right.
you know, we would take each other's like makeup or like clothes or hairbrushes or hair ties or whatever, you know. But like, so then you would start like blaming other people, but then your stuff would just show up in the same spot.
Yep.
So yeah, it did kind of seem like demonic, or like it didn't seem like, you know, like somebody was trying to like connect from the other side. It wasn't like that. It was like somebody trying to mess with you constantly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then
I think like many. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jessi.
Oh, I was gonna say like the only poltergeist like type thing that happened was one time, like I didn't see it, but we heard about it. Is our dad like didn't believe in like any of this stuff and would usually like just like tell us we were crazy, or would be like, don't talk about it, like it's just stupid, like you know, you guys are crazy. And I remember one night he had woken up, and do you remember this, Carmen? All the cabinets were open.
Oh, I
all
think
the
I did
cabinet
hear about
doors.
it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he woke up and all the cabinet doors were open. And it wasn't just like, you know, somebody was looking for something and left all the cabinet doors open. It was like a situation where like everything was like perfectly open. The drawers, the doors.
And he would know
everything.
because he would check the kitchen before he would go to bed at night and turn all the lights off. So he would know. Yeah.
Yeah, he'd be like the last one to go to sleep, or he'd go to sleep and then he'd wake up and turn all the lights off and like make sure the door was locked and stuff. So like there's no way like somebody just like, you know, was looking for something and left all the cabinet doors open. It was like something was literally messing with him. And then like I remember he had told my mom or something, but then after that he like never wanted to talk about it again.
Definitely. And I was going to say, to like summarize everything too, like, you know, you see all these entities, you want to know more about the area. So we knew about the nuns.
Yeah.
That one we didn't really have to validate because the neighbors knew about it.
Right.
Then, you know, my mom and I think even Jessi, we started doing research on the area. And I think since the house was built, the house had only changed hands. Maybe I think we were like the fourth owners. So I start kind of digging into the past a little bit because I'm, you know, for a while the family lore was like, oh, if you're seeing an entity, it must be an individual that passed away on the property.
Right.
Untimely. So we started doing research on the area. The family who built the house stayed in the house for about 60 years, I believe. Maybe 60 plus or minus 10 years. They had a family. Their children, adult children, moved back in. One of the adult children had a family as well, and they rented out the basement. So you did have several children who lived at the home before the 1970s, but nobody passed away in the home. Nobody passed away early. You know, you can look at the records that are public. Everybody who built the home, they just died of old age. Seemed like a nice family. I think they're even still local to the area. Nothing like that. So then we started digging into the land portion of it. We were trying to figure out, well, what was here before? The town was largely still rural and unsettled before the 1880s. So we look up the land property records. We couldn't find too much. And the reason why we couldn't find too much is because our neighborhood, I don't know if I ever told you this, Monica, was owned, I think, by like a lumber mill out maybe like 15 miles away. They had this really large vast of they just owned all the woods basically.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And the lumber mill itself was maybe like 10 miles away. So there was nothing active being used on this property before settlers came in. Just for context for everybody. Yeah, it was not active farming. I don't think there was a Native American settlement in that vicinity. Nothing like that. So you have this unsettled terrain in the Victorian era, which is super common for the Midwest. So there's nothing there. So
right.
that doesn't debunk anything either. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like, it was interesting about the like lumbering area because like my older sister had always mentioned like the thing that had like taken over her body, or when she had like sleep paralysis and stuff, she had seen this like lumberjack. And I remember being like, that's ridiculous.
Is that when she was sleeping on the couch?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's when she was sleeping on the couch and she felt like somebody had taken over her body. And then she saw an apparition of this like burly man with like a beard, and he was wearing like a plaid shirt, and she said he looked like a lumberjack. And I just thought it was like so silly. And then when I was like older, I want to say like maybe right before I had gone to college, late high school, I had a dream, and I had walked downstairs and there was this full-length mirror, and I looked in the mirror and there was this family, and there was this man with a plaid shirt and a beard and like really dark hair, and then there was like this woman standing next to him that looked like his wife. I mean, it looked like a family portrait setup, but I was like seeing it in this mirror.
Okay.
And then there were two little girls with blonde hair and like little prairie dresses. And I remember thinking like, oh, this must be the family that lived here. And I kind of had a bad feeling about the dream. Like they were staring me down. Like it wasn't just a family portrait. It was like they were on the other side of the mirror, and they were kind of like staring me down. Like, we like live here. Like this is our house, is kind of like the vibe they were giving me. So then like but I thought it was weird. Like it didn't connect because I was like, well, why does he have a plaid shirt? Because I'm so dumb. I thought like plaid shirts were like new. Like I thought, because they're trending all the time. So I'm just like, why is this like guy standing with these people wearing a plaid shirt when they look like they're from Little House on the Prairie? You know? And I'm like, you know, like, did he just like time hop and go to Old Navy and get a plaid shirt? Like, what's going on? And then like, I'm so dumb then. I remember Carmen telling me and my older sister saying like, oh, well, this was like a lumbering site, and like the guy who lived here was probably a lumberjack. And
or at least in the vicinity.
Like, I was just gonna say that, like, so it wasn't specifically like in your house or in our like or by our block or whatever.
Not on our
like,
street.
He lived in the vicinity. Are you talking about the lumber yard or whatever? Is that like the one that's like in front of the prison, the old prison?
I think like there was a sawmill even farther down towards the next town.
Okay.
Yeah,
just because
they're no longer there. It was just I mean, you're talking like 1860s to 1870s, so it wasn't like even a stone permanent structure,
right? No, the only reason why I asked is, and I mean, this is, we're not gonna say like where we're from, but we have our hometown has like one of the most haunted prisons or something like that. There's a prison that's really, really old, and that literally right across it there's this building that I've always been curious by. You know what it reminds me of? You guys are gonna Harry Potter, like the Shrieky Shack, like that or the Shrieking Shack, whatever it was called. It reminds me of that because I don't think there's anything that goes on there, but I just remember it like it's really weird. I don't think anybody uses it or anything, and it's just there in front of the prison. So I was just like curious, but
I mean, there could have been multiple, you know, makeshift sites.
Yeah,
that they had like foremen live on. I'd be interested to do like more information about who owned. I mean, I kind of remember who owned the company, but I'd like to know how many employees they had, how many were permanent, stuff like that.
I remember I had gone to the library with my mom because we were that's when we were trying to figure out like who lived in the house and what was here before the house. Right. And we had pulled up like some of the, I don't know, like these old maps that were part of like the census records. And it was just like all woods back there. It was like our block, and then I think just like the block behind us and maybe another block, but like now there's like several blocks in that whole neighborhood, and all those blocks weren't there. It was like maybe a couple of them, and then it was just like all woods, and it said the name of like the lumbering company, like because like whatever their name, like it was like something Woods, like with the name, like Monica's Woods or something, like it has their name.
I think I looked it up at one point. I think it was like a family or a company that was out east, and they kind of were migrating west, and they just bought like a big tract of land, basically.
Yeah, but once we figured all that out, that's when it clicked with like, okay, maybe one of the guys who was working on the lumbering company, he lived at our house, and maybe he's the guy who like built the house that lived there for several years.
Well, then I did find out that was the people who built the house. They were not associated with the lumberyard at all. They were Slovenian immigrants. They came directly over, and I think within the first year of living in the area, the husband built the house, and then his wife came over a year afterwards, and then they had like I think 4 or 5 children, which again would have been the 1890s. So it's not that nothing was in the vicinity before the 1890s, but there wasn't a permanent structure.
Right, but I was going to say, if you're talking about like Little House on the Prairie dresses, isn't that like older than that?
Yeah.
Like 1870s, yeah.
Like I wonder if it's like a situation where somebody had a makeshift settlement or something.
Right.
It's not in the records.
Right.
Which is so much harder to prove. We haven't been able to find too much, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I know there was like a well or something where like, I don't know, like a lot of houses have wells, so it might not be significant, but I always thought it was really weird that like so like I said before, our house originally just had 2 bedrooms, but then like, I don't know, what was it, Carmen, like the 90s when they did the addition?
Yes, yeah.
So like in the late 90s, they hired contractors and did an addition, and that's when they added like, I think the extra hallway and the 2 bedrooms in the back of the house. And there was always, I mean, granted, there was a lot of weird stuff in the living room and the kitchen, but like, you know, the thing with like the door always opening, and like I had seen the apparition in one of those back bedrooms, and then the situation that happened with like the little kids playing and the weird creepy feeling I had, like a lot of that stuff happened in the back bedrooms. And I always thought that was so weird, because I was like, well, if there's like a ghost haunting the house, like why would they be haunting these 2 new bedrooms that weren't part of the property? And I remember asking my mom, like, what was there before? And she's like, well, we built it on top of the well. And that kind of always like didn't sit right with me. And I don't know, like maybe I'm just thinking.
Well, it's kind of funny that you bring that up, because so basically in order to build a well, you need some type of like a foundation bed with like a porous rock, right? Like, and our area in town and the surrounding areas are known to be this big, vast limestone deposit in the bedrock. That's like what we're known for. And most of the houses on the block are built from the same quarried limestone foundation. Yeah. So of course it makes sense that, you know, you'd have a well right there. And I think it was really easy to dig wells everywhere in our area. And I kind of started doing like more, you know, paranormal research, because I'm really like pragmatic, and I'm like, I want like answers, right? I want logic behind it. Well, I don't know. I was kind of telling you guys this at lunch the other day. Have you guys ever heard of that theory? I found out the name of it because I had forgotten for years ago, but it's called the stone tape theories. And basically it's really prevalent in the UK because they have a lot of, you know, castles and things like that that are made out of stone bedrock, and certain parts of the country are just like all stone everywhere, especially up north. And basically the premise is that like these certain types of rock or porous rock, they kind of, because they hold so much water, energy, spiritualness is like conductive through water, like an electricity.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
So you get certain types of stones, and you have a lot more paranormal activity. You have a lot of not active intelligent hauntings, but you kind of have the past replaying over and over again in a loop.
Yeah.
So I think that has something to do with it in our area. I think a lot of the stuff in town is just haunted in general. Like the past just lives with the present, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I truly do think that the limestone has a lot to do with that.
And like I said, I mentioned this like earlier on. There's an apartment, and then there's another apartment like on my when I was there, like left side or whatever, right? And that apartment, my parents used to live there, and then another like kind of like person that we grew up with, like family friend, lived in that apartment, and they would experience stuff all the time, like shadows, and I think even like her like feeling something sit on the bed with her. So I just think that I don't know, like
It's the whole area.
the whole area. But even
Yeah.
like with me, like I said, I've never really experienced, besides the thing that I experienced, and that was when I was like under construction. But one time, and my brother's probably gonna hate that I'm saying this, I don't know if he remembers this, but um there was one day that I was supposed to be taking a trip. This was like in the winter or something. I was supposed to be taking a trip, and I asked him to take me to the airport. Like my flight ended up being like canceled, or the trip ended up being canceled. But I remember he came up to me the next day, and he was just like, were you in my room like waking me up? And I was like, no, what are you talking? I was like, I didn't wake you up to take me to the airport because like my trip got canceled or whatever. And then he was just like, oh, he was like, well, when I don't know, I thought you were waking me up because in the middle of the night or whatever it was, whatever time it was, I had like a pillow on top of my face and something was holding it down, and I thought you were trying to wake me up that way. And I was like, why would I try to wake you up by like essentially like suffocating you, or like, putting a pillow over your face or whatever. And my brother's also like a skeptic, like he's very skeptical about things. And he said that like he like felt it, or he like sensed it or experienced it, and then when he looked around, like there was nobody there, and he thought that it wasn't me. He asked me, and I'm like, what logical person would like wake you up by, like I said, by like putting a pillow over your head? So I don't know if I don't know if my parents have never talked about it. I don't know. I like my house for the most part was, like I said, besides those three things, like nothing ever happened. I just remember that you guys would kind of tell me like all the time, like stuff that would be happening, and you could kind of feel it, like when you would like, I didn't go over your house like often, but your house felt, the energy felt different.
Yeah.
I just felt,
sure.
I don't want to say like dark. I just felt heavy. Maybe the right word is like heavy.
Yeah.
Like, it just felt heavy.
I was gonna say, like, there's just like a lot going on, and it's hard to like identify exactly what it is. But I do feel like it does have to do with the limestone and the energy. Like, there was just a lot of energy there. And I was gonna say too, like, about like, I don't know, it kind of seemed like things that would happen, but not in the right time period, or like you would see things, but it was the wrong time. Like, for example, I remember at one point, my mom, like in the 90s, we had gone to like Mexico for the winter, and only our older sister stayed back because she had to like work or something. And so all of us were out of town for like, I don't know, was that like a month or several weeks? And I remember, so I can't remember what neighbor, but one of our neighbors said that they saw my mom we had a rocking chair on our porch, that she was sitting on the rocking chair holding one of us and rocking back and forth. And they were like worried because it was the middle of the night and it was winter and it was like snowing and there was like a huge blizzard, or you guys got a lot of snow that year. It was like 98 or something like that, or 99. And I remember a neighbor like came to my mom and was like, hey, I was worried about you because you were like rocking your kid like in the middle of a snowstorm and sitting on the porch in the middle of the night for several hours. And my mom being like, yeah, like I wasn't here, I was in another country. So that was like super weird, but like maybe they saw her, but like in another time. Yeah. And I think it was the same neighbor. Do you guys remember Roy across the street?
Yeah.
So like when I was in like high school, I had seen him at the grocery store. I think I was, no, not high school, college. I was in college and I was visiting like for spring break, and me and my mom saw him at the grocery store, and we were just like chatting with him. And I had come back a few months later for summer break, and I saw him in the front yard, like, I don't know, he was like mowing the grass or working on his car. That's usually what he was doing. And I remember like saying something a couple weeks later and being, my mom was talking about him being dead and they didn't know what they were going to do with the house. And I was like, oh my God, he died. I just saw him a couple weeks ago. And she was like, no, he died months ago. Like after we saw him at the grocery store, he died like right after that. So I think it was like in April or like late March or something that he died. And then I saw him in June.
Wow.
So I don't know, like it didn't feel like it was a ghost. Like maybe I was seeing a different time period, like almost like
that's what sometimes people like some of the explanations say is that it's not, you're not seeing ghosts, it's like
it's a recording or something.
Yes, that it's like you're seeing this like energy from like the past, and it's just like a recording, like Carmen said.
I think that's our whole area, because ironically enough, the dog we talked about, our family dog, she died a few months ago, and I think a week after we put her down, my sister and mom started seeing her on the property on the front porch, walking up and down the stairs, like glances.
Yeah.
And so then it makes you think, well, is it really an intelligent spirit, or are you just seeing her, you know, in the past as she always was, walking constantly?
It's almost like interdimensional or something.
Yeah. Like, I feel like there's 3 like main things going on with this area and the property. I feel like the most prevalent is like you have this unintelligent, just like the past keeps replaying, probably from the bedrock. And then I think maybe at some point there was somebody that lived in the vicinity that, you know, was back 100 and something years ago, and he kind of like maybe had like some type of untimely death, or there was something very traumatic about that life and that family. So we might actually be seeing a true like spirit that's like connected to the earth still and trapped.
Yeah.
And then I also think that when you have all of this energy and these, maybe a negative like actual spirit that's trapped here, it's not like uncommon to have a demonic entity kind of like swoop in.
Yeah.
And so I think there's some type of a demonic entity preying off of some type of spirits in the area as well. So I think there's those 3 main things going on there.
I can see that. I can understand what you're saying.
I definitely feel like there's a demon there. Like when I was in, this was not college. This was like maybe 6 years ago. I think I told you guys about this dream, and I don't know if it's like real or if it means anything, but I remember having a dream about a demon, and I was in my house, and he was like wanting to show me something, like in a weird way. Like I wasn't scared of him. Like it's almost like as if I had known him. Like I knew he was a demon, but like friendly in a weird way. Like I don't know how to describe it. That he was like, I want to show you something, and he was like, took me to the basement and told me like, this is where I came from, and he like pointed to the corner in the basement. I don't know if you remember like that corner where like our shower is. There's like this weird corner in the basement, and he was saying like there's a portal here and this is where I came from. And then I just woke up, and maybe it's that, like maybe there's...
I had a similar dream when I was like maybe 5 years old as well.
What was your dream?
That I was like, trapped in the basement. There were like maybe 3, like the basement changed to like a greenish blackish hue. There were like 3 like demons in the basement. It was just like a really intense dream. Sometimes I don't even know if I was actually dreaming or if I was sleepwalking. But yeah, and just that I couldn't get out of the basement, but that like whatever those negative entities were, they like lived or originated like in the basement, which is, you know, kind of like ironic and cliche to say, because you always think there's monsters in your creepy basement, but like legitimately everybody has collectively had the same experience without talking to each other about it, because we don't like to really expand on the negative energy.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely think there could be like a portal or something. There's definitely something demonic in the house, and it feels like it comes from the basement.
I was gonna say, is that like the area where the well would be at? Because I know you guys bring in the wall
No,
or whatever.
opposite side of the house, yeah.
No, it's just
I have
like
no
the
idea.
corner of the house. Actually, now that I think about it, okay, like, and I wonder if this corner is connected or not connected. It's so weird because I have to think like where the house is on the second floor, but there is like this one part of the house upstairs right by the door when you first enter the front door. Whenever somebody takes a picture right by this door, there's always a weird I don't know, how would you describe
like an orb? Like a
orb,
like a haze. It almost distorts the photo. Like you'd think there'd be water on the photo, but it's not. It's in the picture itself.
It's like this yellow haze. It's not necessarily like a white orb, although sometimes there are white orbs around whenever somebody takes a picture in like the living room or the kitchen. But just in this one little area, there's always like a weird yellowish haze that messes up the picture.
Yep.
And I remember like all of our like dogs that we've ever like brought over, although I don't know if Tibby ever barked at this, but there was always like a dog barking at the area. Or like kids, whenever you'd bring babies over, like when we brought Janelle, she would like point when she was a baby, she'd point to that corner. When I had Henry, the little Chihuahua mutt thing, he would always bark at that area. So there was like something
ironically
weird.
enough, that's where I saw my first entity as well. It was in that corner. Yeah.
And I wonder, is that on top of the corner in the basement?
Yeah, that's the corner.
So, so maybe that's somehow connected, like the portal is
a hotbed of energy.
Yeah.
Don't spend the night at our house. That's the moral of the story.
that's the moral of the story.
I don't go over there like anymore because like if I do, I feel like I have to like cleanse myself. Like, am I going to bring something back with me? Like, I have to be like prepared to go over there. Like, then I'm going to like sage my house afterwards because you just don't know what energy is there and what's going to come back with you.
It's true. I've brought like, pieces of like decorative stuff home, and I didn't want to believe it for years. My mom would give me, oh, here, take this bowl I've had in the garage forever, or take this whatever vase. And I swear, like, things happen at my house and I live, 35 miles away. And I'll have something. And so I either have to get rid of the object or try to bless it. And it's just not even worth going over there or bringing stuff over if you don't want trouble.
That's funny you say that because I never thought like I'm bringing stuff that I've always had in that house with me, and if I just bring stuff with me everywhere I go.
I was gonna say that they always say like if you buy like secondhand or kind of like in that situation you're like bringing it from a different location, they always tell you to like cleanse it to to cleanse it because you never know what. Because we've heard about like people bringing like a table or a couch or I don't even know whatever, right? And then all of a sudden they're like experiencing like paranormal activity. So they always say like if you buy anything secondhand or garage sale or whatever, to make sure that you like cleanse it because of that for that specific reason. And it's like funny.
I did always wonder too. Like my mom loved to go like antique shopping and a lot of our stuff was always like secondhand like antique furniture, and I always wondered if she was also bringing stuff into the house because she never cleansed it.
Right. Well, you already know back then like I feel like this was like not very much like talked about, so now there's a lot more information out there. To kind of like wrap this up, is there any last things that you want to say? Anything else that maybe has like come up?
I don't know. If somebody knows who can bless our house.
Like paranormal investigators, we would not like to stir up the entities. Just answers.
You're like we would. Do you like hope for them to like move on, or do you just want to like? Because didn't you say you feel like sometimes you would try to like investigate and stuff would pop up? Your mom, or you're saying your mom was saying that like, oh, I want to look into this and that or whatever, and things.
The more you acknowledge it, the worse it gets sometimes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, we'd like for them to go away. Thank you.
I don't know. I kind of just like, I either want some answers or I want to like be like Amityville Horror, like the house. Like, you know, like people want to come and visit and then we can like make money off of our trauma.
Oh my God.
And like we can.
Tourist attraction. We've moved on to, we'd like to solve this too. Let's keep it.
I know what you can do. You can do like an Airbnb it out, and then like you can stay at your like haunted house kind of type of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, when our parents no longer living there, that's a good
That's
idea.
an idea. That's an idea where you can like rent it out. I'm pretty sure people would be like interested in the.
Truly, the whole town needs to come together. I mean, it's a decent sized Midwest town, but I think we could have a true like tourist attraction in the
like
whole
the
town.
block. I wonder if it's just our block, you know, or a couple blocks in our area, because
I've heard stories all the way up the hill on the other side of the river, basically.
And there's so many stories about that prison too, and it's just built out of limestone.
Yeah.
It's
that town is a hotbed of activity, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I live not too far away from our whole house, and you know, I don't want to like knock on wood, you know, like we've been pretty good. But I just want to say this because you know there are probably going to be people that listen to this and they're going to be like, these people are crazy, you know, but I just want to say I acknowledge your experiences. And I mean, I'm a believer of the paranormal and all that stuff. And I feel for like you guys, because I feel that you and your family are very sensitive. You're sensitive to energy. I know that one of you brought up like clairvoyance, like that could be a thing. I just feel like you guys are extra sensitive, and to have that into the mix of like the house, because like I said, for me being next door, I didn't really experience that, but I just want to say, like I said, this is their experiences, and to say like this, how is it that a whole household experienced something? You know what I mean? It's not like it's one person and one person only. So
yeah,
I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk with me. I really appreciate y'all. Thank you. As always, I just want to say thank you to anyone who tunes in to listen. I would appreciate if you could leave a review, and would be grateful if you could let me know what information resonated with you. Please follow and share on social media. The pages are at Se Vuelve Podcast, or my personal's at Se Vuelve Monica. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Nos vemos pronto. Talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.